It wouldn't be a work from home without it, right?
Yes. Hey, everyone. Welcome. I am so excited today to be joined with the lovely Pam Andrews of the Scholarship Shark.
Thank you for having me. This is so exciting. It's so good to see you again, too, as always.
Yes. I know, in a way, this is nice. It feels like having connection, even though we're all in quarantine.
Quarantine, yes. I'm learning the difference between isolation and quarantine, but it does feel like quarantine. So
It does. It's
yes.
true. It's isolation, if we're being
Yes.
honest.
It is.
If we're being honest.
It's so true.
So I'm just going to do a quick double check on technology because that's been my experience today. Is technology is, difficult.
And I'm just going to share it, which is why I'm looking down. Awesome. I see it here. So I'm going to share.
Let's see. Are you seeing it?
I am seeing it.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. This week it has been, I've just had lots of technology disasters, which I think just is par for the course. That's life, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it feels especially hard when there's already so much other stuff going on.
Exactly.
But cool. Okay, good. We are live.
Yes.
So, and let's see. Okay. So
yeah,
we are here today because Pam is somebody who has homeschooled and for many years now, and
still homeschooling.
That's true. That's true. And runs a thriving business from home. So I think she's an expert in how do you manage that? How do you manage working from home? And I think a bunch of people are in that place now where they're trying to figure out like, okay, now I'm at home and I'm supposed to be getting work done and my children in here and I need to help them with their school stuff. So how do I do all that?
Correct. And it can be very scary because no one signed up for this, number one, and it was sudden. For a lot of families, it was just dropped in your lap. And I'm seeing everything across the board from packets being sent home, with tablets being sent home, to nothing being sent home, to knowing how long it's going to be, to not knowing anything. So yeah, nothing's consistent. And it's just something about when things are out of our control and there are all these unknowns. It adds that extra layer of stress, at least for me anyway, because I'm total type A, and so, so I have to know what's going on. And so, yeah. So I can feel it, across the board, even
exactly. And I think you make a good point. I think the suddenness of it, it's different than, I'm calling this schooling at home as opposed to homeschooling, because homeschooling is a whole different endeavor. And that, I think people go into that. Well, sometimes they're thrust into it as well, but
right.
It's a totally different thing. And so it wasn't something most people were expecting to do. And so, yeah, it just creates, all this additional stress on top of the fact that, there's everyday stress. And then there's all these different layers of it. And then it's like, oh, but how do I actually still do my job if you're somebody who is working from home?
Correct. Whether you're running your own business, which are most of the women in your community, they're business owners, or, you're now working from home also because you're in isolation or quarantine. So, yes. Yeah.
So great. I guess where would you start as far as like tips for people or kind of what you think would be a good idea?
Yeah. So if it's okay, I did a little presentation.
Yes.
It feels like the homeschool mom in me, right?
Okay, I love your type A preparedness. Yes. Please do it, girl. Please do it.
Thank you. All right. So I think I can share my screen. And I'm new at this one too. Oh yeah, it actually works. Tell me if it works. I'm in the show. I'm sharing. I think I am sharing.
Oh, let's see. Oh, yep. Let me add it in here. There we go. There
Perfect.
we go.
And I'm looking over at my phone here to make sure.
Yep.
Okay. So everyone can. Oh yeah, it works. Cool. It's funny watching on the phone. It's delayed, and I'm like, oh my. So,
I know. We're like, oh yay! Technology did what it said it would do.
Yes. All right. So I'm going to just go ahead and talk about school at home while working from home. And I like how you share that distinction, because I think for moms who were thrown into this, or moms and dads, I'm a mom, so I really speak to a mom's heart. it'll, things will one day get back to your normal. This is just kind of the new normal for now. And I just want to share some practical tips as a veteran homeschool mom. I was trying to do the math. My oldest will be 23 this year, and he was 4 going on 5-ish when I started. So I think I'm like 18 years in. And my youngest is 9. So I'm going to be doing this for quite a while. This is not, although I do eyeball the buses when they come around, the in our community. I'm like, oh, wow. And you might be on that when your brother goes off to school, in a few years. So anywho, so can you still hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, awesome. You got so quiet and your house is so quiet.
Oh, well. They've been forced outside. So
that's brilliant. That's a great strategy.
Exactly. They've been warned my office is right underneath the dining room. I was like, do not be in the dining room.
Right.
This is serious.
My office is right under the bathroom, and I declare everybody wants to drink water, and all I hear is flush, 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 right in the middle, of everything all the time. So what I want you to know is that we will get through this together. And I think that's really encouraging, because right now it just feels really overwhelming. It feels like, what do we do? How do we make it all happen? But, we don't know when we're coming out of this, but I do want to encourage the listeners, the viewers, that we will get through this together. But in the meantime, I'm going to share a few tips, some strategies, some very practical things, take your questions, and to help you get through it. So let me tell you a little bit about me. Pam Andrews. I am a serial entrepreneur. So in the middle, and this is an older picture because now everyone is officially much taller than I am, with the exception of our youngest, but she's close. But that was a few years back, and that was probably the only picture of all of us together. But I show this to show the span of ages. So my oldest is a college senior. He graduates in a few months. We don't know if there'll be a ceremony. We don't know what that looks like. So I have a college graduate. Then next to me in the striped dress is my daughter. She's a high school graduate. And although we're a homeschooling family, we're part of a very active, very large homeschool community, where they actually take their classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we have a really nice graduation. They have a prom, so they get all those extra kind of traditional things that a lot of traditional school students get. And it may not happen for them. So it's even managing some of the emotions with that. And they're home. I plan my podcast recording. I'm going to talk a little bit about that on Tuesdays and Thursdays, when I know everyone's out the house because they're in co-op and I don't have to, yell quiet, so, having them here all the time is a little bit different. Even having the older one, he's been on campus. He's been kind of living his own life, doing his own thing. And now he's home, and it's like, oh, I'm going out. We're running out of snacks. No, you're not. Because you don't fill up the gas tank, so it's just, no matter what age or stage, it's just something interesting with kids and kids that come back home or stay home. And then I have a college senior, graduating senior, I have a high school graduating senior, I have a high school junior, and then I have a 4th grader. The picture in the lower corner, I actually ran a brick and mortar fitness studio for 4 years. So I did it for a total of 7 years, where I was just going around my boom box, and they don't even make those anymore, but going from place to place, and I ran it in the evenings and Saturday mornings, and got to the place where we just grew and had to have our own place. So I've run businesses at home. I had a thriving fitness studio. It was called Shake It Fitness because it was all about the hips and just having so much fun. And so I did that and managed that with kids. And I'm telling you this for a reason, because when I get to the very end, there's a really good point. I just really want to tie it all together, especially with this season that we're in now. And then the other picture, I have a heart for women and for moms. So we're an adoptive family. We fostered and adopted. And that was a women's ministry that I ran for years, for fostering and adoptive moms, Joy for the Journey. And so I included that as well. So I have never known a time. It's funny. My daughter always says, Mom, I don't think you're ever going to not do anything. I don't ever think, I've never I don't want to say just homeschooled, but I've always done something in addition to homeschooling. I've never just schooled my children at home and then, baked cookies and that was it. It was always something else going on, competing for my time and my energy and everything. So that's just a little bit about me. So I say all that to say that during this time, this detour or rest or break or whatever it is, isolation, quarantine, I want you to think about what are your goals. And maybe, and I say this because without goals to ground us, we can get frustrated, we can get irritable, we can get, we can, not be a nice mommy. And sometimes even with goals, but goals can ground us and bring us back. And I really want families to think about the opportunities that they're going to get in this moment that you may never get again. And I think because my oldest was in college on campus, but now he's back home. But every time he would come home, I would always be very intentional about he's home for 1 month in December, or he's home for 1 week for spring break, or he's home for 12 weeks in the summer. What am I going to do now that, I didn't do in the past and that I may not be able to do again? Even now, between now, March and his May, because, he does have an expiration date. I said, listen, buddy, this doesn't mean that career planning is on hold and, you're getting nice, 3 meals a day and it's really nice around here, living at home, don't forget, I don't want this to be a hiccup and to slow you down with your plans. You were looking for an apartment, you knew where you wanted to live and all that. But we're now spending time, and I'm taking this opportunity to really talk about, we've talked about budgeting and personal finance, but now is a really good time because I said, a lot of people are scared. A lot of people are losing their jobs. A lot of people live paycheck to paycheck. And you're young, you're single, you're off to a great start. And so even now I'm being intentional where I tried to in the past talk about personal finance and money. And he does have some of his favorite podcasters. He loves Popcorn Finance. I'll give a shout out to Chris, but, I think he likes it because it's short, but, I think now it may really sink in because he's that much closer to the finish line. And, but my whole point is always have a goal. So even I had to sit down and I had my cup of coffee, I had my quiet time. And I thought, what is it that I want for my kids, even during this time? With my daughter, even though, she's home a lot because she is homeschooled, she is graduating. I thought, I only have a few more months with her. And because of the program she's going into, it's a 3-1 program where you get your bachelor's and 3 and your master's in that 4th year. So it's year round. When she leaves in August, I probably won't see her again. Not that I won't see her again. I mean, I'll see her, during the semester break, but her summers are already committed. I mean, it's really intense. So I say that to say, whether it's 2 weeks, some people have an April date. Some people have like an 8 weeks. Some people don't know. Whatever that time is, what are your goals? And maybe your goals are just to keep them alive, keep them fed, whatever, no judgment,
And that's okay too. Yes,
that is
exactly.
perfectly okay. Perfectly
Absolutely.
okay. Perfectly okay. So yeah, just know what your goals are. And I would say write them down. And I have a resource I'm going to share at the very end, because when you write it down, you can go back to it, you can think about it. And it's nothing like writing it down to kind of document what it is you're thinking. So I wanted to just share this quote. A good plan violently executed now is better than a perfect plan executed next week. And I'm just going to make it real simple. Good now is better than perfect later. I share this a lot with my students. A lot of times they keep working on essays, and I'm a college admissions consultant. Oh, I don't think I said that in my one slide, but anyway, I let them know, sometimes you just have to kind of pull the plug and say, boom, let's be done with this and hit submit. But I think having something in place now is better than trying to have the perfect thing in place and not having anything in place. And so I just really want to start off with create a schedule and make it visible. This to me is everything, because especially since your children have been in a traditional school and they're very much used to structure and schedule, where mine probably really aren't. I'm not going to lie. They kind of roll out of bed when they roll out of bed and things like that. But because they're the older ones anyway. But for those students who already had a schedule, you want to create a schedule and make it visible. So the schedule is going to do a couple things. It's going to be great for you because you're working from home. So you have to almost have two schedules. You're going to have their school schedule or kind of their day schedule. And I'm going to talk about a day because it's not going to look like your traditional school day. They're not going to sit in little, you don't need to run out to like eBay or Amazon and get primed in little wooden desks and all that. You're not doing all that. We're going to talk about what you're going to do. You're not recreating the school in your home. You're going to take advantage of opportunities in your home that you normally wouldn't have. So you're not trying to recreate that model. You're going to have a new model that's going to work. And so you're not going to do the long 9 to 3 because there's some efficiency built into schooling from home. And I find with my kids, they're able to sit down, get it done. And so you're able to move on to some of those other things that you like to do, they like to do. And so, but when it comes to creating this schedule, depending on the age of your kids, let them help you plan the schedule, their school schedule. And what I mean by that, if you have, I know my fourth grader, my little 9-year-old, I know her favorite subject. She loves to read, absolutely loves to read. And when I need quiet time because I'm working on my business, that's the time I just have her start with reading. Now, I know she needs a little extra help. She needs me by her side for math, whether it's an online something. I'm going to talk about some different things, or if it's a paper worksheet or workbook. So I don't plan any of my work. I'm not planning podcast episodes, recording. I'm not doing anything that requires deep thought with my client work during that time where she needs some of that extra support. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you'll have your schedule. So you may not have really planned your schedule this way, but you have to plan it with them in mind because they are home. And especially, again, like I said, if you're recording a podcast, if you're doing Facebook Lives, YouTube Lives, if you're taking client calls, you have to take a look at both schedules. And like I said, the minute they give buy-in, they own it. And so they're more excited about it and they're more likely to do it. And then I say, make it visible, whether it's on a refrigerator, wherever your family hangs out, if it's the family room, or maybe if you have like a little cork board next to the family computer, wherever, but it needs to be in a place where everybody knows what the schedule is and can stick to the schedule. Now, here's the thing, especially with teens. So for your listeners or viewers who have older kids, teens like to sleep. And I'm a different kind of mom. I'm very kind of eclectic and, I'm very funky. I'm like a boho kind of mom here. But I let them go with their natural body rhythms. I let them go with their interests, their passions, their pursuits, and so if they're a little bit tired in the morning, let them sleep. It's okay. Because what's going to happen is you're going to find they're not changing classes. They're not having a lot of the natural disruptions and distractions that kind of happen in larger settings, in larger groups, in traditional school model. So they're still going to get their work done in a way that works for them. So I think it's really important for older kids to have a lot of say-so into, what they get done. Okay.
And, just to touch on that, about creating the schedule. And I think an important thing to say is that I think it's going to shift over the days and the weeks as time goes on, especially because the first few days you're just getting your footing as people who have been thrust into this. I know because that's the situation we're in, and we have, 3 kids between kindergarten and 4th grade. And I know I think like having a schedule is not my husband's natural like way of being, even though he is an ex-military guy. But I think it was like, okay, the first day we're kind of getting, we were expecting it not to be that Monday, right? And so it ended up being Monday, no school. So the first day was like getting our bearings, and then even today's Thursday, so I guess it's been 4 days. Today it was like he realized, okay, I actually need to spend more time with our youngest because she's needing the most support in the beginning. So giving the kids, like, they already knew what the other 2 already knew what they had to do. So I just think it's one of those things of like, you might not like you said, it's better than perfection. You might not have all the answers right away. And I think you're going to naturally find it out. Like, oh, actually, I'm going to have to, during this time do more one-on-one. So let me make sure the other 2 are already occupied and doing their thing. So I just want to kind of put that out there because
Yeah.
but yeah, absolutely agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, and I love that you said that because that transition, it's funny. There are times when I'll meet a mom who says, I'm pulling my kid out of school and I'm going to homeschool them, and they're older, maybe fifth grade, sixth grade, whatever. And I always say, first, do nothing. Like literally do absolutely nothing. And it sounds like what? And so you're right. So just that, like you said, there was probably nothing, and for us, I mean, my older two or my middle two, I'm sorry, their homeschool co-op, Easter break has not happened yet, but my oldest was home on his spring break in March, and then it was extended and then campus closed. So we were kind of in a do nothing mode anyway. And, so I've had to kind of rethink that, and we still are kind of like, so you're right. So just, I call it like breathe in, breathe out. Sometimes you breathe in and you do absolutely nothing and it's okay. You'd be surprised. I have to share this story. So I have my 22-year-old, she just turned 18, and I have a 16-year-old. So she was 7. So they're like 18 months apart. So those two, I was pregnant with child number 3 when she was like little and Daryl was 5 or maybe 6. He was 6 or maybe 7, 6 or 7. And I just remember, and he was born in August, number 3. And that's typically when we start our school year. I didn't do anything. I honestly did nothing, like August, September, October, November, December, like nothing. And I just remember giving him, this is when Bear in the Big Blue House, this is how old he is, but that was on, and Blue's Clues. And I just remember thinking, just watch this. Like I had postpartum, I was nursing. I had 2, smaller kids. I was exhausted, and he turned out okay. Like he's about to graduate from college. So
exactly.
Right. You can take a break and they're going to be okay. They really are going to be okay. Just, so you to figure out the schedule is really more for you to do what you need to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And to help them understand.
And I think it's a good guide. I think it's a good guide for yourself. And then you're going to learn like, oh, actually that doesn't work for me.
Right.
And, you're going to figure it out. So I do like that you said that though. It's also a reminder of, we were all thrown into this, probably most of the people watching it's because they were thrown into it. And it's like, okay, but there are also other things happening. So like you're talking about like giving birth, there are people like who have had other losses or other kinds of things going on. It's like, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay that you're not, on top of it 24/7. You gotta give yourself grace and breathing room, I think, in this.
Absolutely. So. And I'll share this too. The year that my son graduated, so it was April of 2016. I'll never forget. It was on a Friday. And as it was actually Good Friday, I'll just never forget. But I got the call, my stepdad, we were very close. He was the only grandfather my kids ever knew, called me from the hospital. He was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And I just remember thinking, oh my word, like 1 minute, literally, okay. And then I got that news. And I just remember thinking, oh my word. And not wanting my mom to have to, care, it just would have been too much. I talked to my husband. I said, I really want him to do hospice in our home. And he did. And honestly, that April until he passed away, not quite 6 weeks, but, within that 6-week window, like graduation planning didn't happen. Schooling didn't happen because I was just in crisis mode. It was just chaotic. So you're right. Things happen, babies and deaths and COVID-19, so we, taking that break is okay. But, once you're able to get the schedule, to help kind of get them back on something. And I love how you said, get something, because having something and tweaking it is better than nothing. And it may change. It's going to be very fluid, and you're going to figure it out as you go along, and they'll help you. They'll let you know, no, I really, I don't like doing that. And okay, no biggie. So yeah, because I will go back. I'm going to go back to this. Honestly, the goal should be the relationship. And because the relationship that we have with our kids, it to me is so precious and so important that if what we're doing is causing a breach in the relationship, then it's not worth it. If you're finding that you're just not able to do all of it, they're going to be, I'm going to share some resources. there's some great online resources. You can put them in front of that. They're going to be okay. And so, so at the end of it, I'll really work to preserve the relationship, whatever that looks like for you and your family. So another practical tip, I would say plan at least a day in advance. And what I mean by that, know at least the night before, maybe day before, what it is you're going to do the next day. It always helps for me when I know in advance, you know, if I'm interviewing like I pretty much know a little bit in advance, like a week or so or whatever. But if I'm interviewing a podcast guest, or if I'm doing, you know, I'm working with students in the evening, or, you know, kind of whatever it is I'm doing, or if I have a meeting out, whatever it is, or if they have a test that they're working on, it's so good to know at least a day in advance. And especially since your kids are home. So make sure you know at least a day in advance what it is, and whether it's a firm schedule or kind of a loose schedule, but make sure you don't put your head on that pillow without knowing like what tomorrow's going to look like. So did you want to add anything, Amber?
No, I think, yeah, that's a really good one. I was just thinking of my husband as last night as he was doing that and like writing down. So luckily for us, I think we've been really fortunate where our school district set home a device with each kid, and actually they're doing virtual school.
Okay.
But it's not like they have to be there. They're not like on the whole time,
Right.
but there are check-ins if they need it. So if they need support, but then there's also like expectations and requirements that they have to complete each day. So for him, it was just being on top of, okay, what is each kid needing to finish that the teachers asked for, right? So that, because even with a plan, even the teacher's plan, we still have to make sure they're executing it.
Right.
And so, yeah, we definitely took that time, or he took that time, because he's in charge of that since he's retired. He's the primary parent. So, and I'm trusting, I mean, if he needs help, he'll ask, but I'm trusting that he's taking care of that.
Right.
Yeah. But I think it's important.
Yeah. Something like that can impact. So when you have everybody on devices and you need to schedule a Skype call with a client, you know, your Wi-Fi may not be working like it normally would be because everyone is not here. So, you know, and I noticed that yesterday I had a client call and I had to yell everybody, tell them, you know, shut it down. They were watching Netflix and it was, you know, at night. And I'm like, I need an hour, you know, give me an hour for some connection here. And I could literally feel the difference with 6 people in the house on every device known to man.
Absolutely.
And yeah. So, right. So you're right. Even with the tablets, you have to think that through. And if you've got something going on where you don't need interruptions and you need that connection to be strong, you may put them on some paper worksheets, or you may have quiet time, or, you know, some other things that I'm going to share that you may need to kind of work into your day because of the resources that you need to do your work, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Awesome. So just a few things to consider. And I just have 4 of them. Number 1, definitely consider the ages and stages of your kids. Of course, littles need a little bit more hand holding. Our older ones, even though they're more independent, or should be, and I say that, I mean, trust me, I've got a 22-year-old. Sometimes I'm like, okay, so God bless them. I love them, you know, but, you know, you just have to understand that, and just kind of, like you said, how your husband is working with them. They may need, it's great in your situation. It's great that your husband is there and he's the primary parent and supportive. But if you don't have that, you may have to, when it comes to planning your workday, know that if they're going to be on the device, and they have to check in at this time, because they, you know, can't remember to swipe left instead of swipe up or whatever, or not get distracted. Because sometimes you got to watch your kids on the tablets. I find that with my 9-year-old. I'm like, hey, I put you on this and now you're off. What are you doing here? So just understand the ages and stages of your kids. The other thing, really understand your family dynamics. I just remember going through different seasons with sibling dynamics. Thankfully, we're on the other end of it, you know, and with the 2 teens and the young adult, they're like super close now. But, you know, there were times with the girl in the middle, she would boss both of them, and, you know, and you get this yelling out of nowhere. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? You know, like, you know, and so you just have to understand your family dynamics when it comes to planning and working from home. And understand your family dynamics. Let the bigs help the littles. And, you know, really, they only need to be like a year or 2 ahead. We're not talking big gaps. I know I've got like this massive range, but sometimes, just being a grade ahead, and this helps them feel really good, when they know that, I really need you to read with her, or, I really need you to sit with her while she's doing this coloring sheet, or can you help her with that? Can you read the directions while she does the rest of this, or whatever? That can be a big help as well. Just using them and putting them to work. And having them as your little helpers. When my kids were really, really little, it's funny. It's all the things that, they're much older now, but all the things I thought about to help run the home, that I would do. Everybody was a manager, and, you were either the bathroom manager or the kitchen manager, and the laundry manager, and they all learned how to do laundry very early. Everybody can at least sort. But it's something about, you put manager on there, and when they're little, they're so excited.
I love that idea. Yeah. Giving them ownership of it.
Give them ownership, and they rise to the challenge. You'd be so surprised. So yeah, I think we don't realize what they're capable of. And again, when my stepdad was ill, my kids just stepped in a major way. And, they really surprised me. You don't know what they're made of until pressure comes. And so in the crisis, we can, again, see what they're made of, and have one lean on the other. And that's even humbling for that little one who maybe they're used to playing together, and now I've got to listen to you, so it can work. It can be a really good thing. So.
Yeah. And I think just a couple of things to add. Mm-hmm. I've been working for years with people who own their own businesses, but as well as people who work for corporations, but were working from home, because mm-hmm. a lot of, especially in Silicon Valley, I feel like there's a lot of people who do a lot of telecommuting. I'm sure it's everywhere, but I know it's everywhere. There's tons of people now where I live that are doing it as well. But so I think I've seen people where they were navigating that anyway because of but it was on a smaller scale. It was like, oh, the kids come home at 3, but they still had to work till 7, or, that kind of thing. Or it was like, oh, the kid's sick, or the school's off for the day, or whatever. And I know some of the strategies were also creating ways where they got work done early in the day, then they took a break in the middle of the day, and then they went back and had more work time. So that way they could either be trading off if there's another parent or adult in the household, or, but giving their kid that kind of one-on-one attention. So figuring out how can you navigate that. And I know for some people, it depends on your kids and the kind of work you're doing, but, having them sit there at the table with you, or wherever the work area is, and having them have tasks that they're doing and that you can do at the same time, so that you're not having to put everything on hold. Because I think that's the other thing is, I think, I'll speak to the moms because I do hear from them more, is they feel like, okay, I have this flexibility. And because they want to give, and they want to take care of their kids and be there for support, their flexibility becomes like, I just expect myself to do it after everyone goes to bed. And that's really stressful because frankly, with everything that's going on, what I'm hearing from people is people are extra tired. Yeah. They're just really exhausted. And it's a whole, we're in this whole new world, period of time. And so I think, trying to get in, 15, 20 minutes of work when we can, and hopefully, you can find tasks for them that it keeps them a little more occupied for a little bit. And then like you're saying, change it up. And I know, say, okay, now we're going to go for a walk, after lunch or something, so that because you can walk around your neighborhood, even in the Bay Area where it's on lockdown. It is officially on shelter in place. Wow. You can do those things that kind of change it up, but then because then it kind of gets your kids' energy out, and then it allows you to come back and say, okay, now here's the thing you get to go do. And then I'm going to go, do the tasks that I need to that take a longer bit of concentration.
Yeah, I love what you just said. And 2 things came to mind. So I have to write them down because I will forget. So one is about boys and the other is selfish. Okay. Not that they're related. Okay. So they're not related. So what you said was so good, because number one, with boys, I find, I have 2 boys, 2 girls, both my boys. So my oldest son is 22 and my next boy is 16. I find walking and movement, I get so much out of him when I say, hey, come with me and walk the dog. And he's usually kind of in his room, just, on his computer doing his work. He's very focused. And he's a great kid, but he's kind of just in his own world. But it's something about movement and walking and doing something physical that he just starts talking. That and food. I found food, you feed them and they start talking. But and I'm trying to whisper because I don't want them to hear my secrets. But so I like that idea, just going for that walk and talking, and you may find that they just share things that you never thought of, just any old kind of quirky old thing. So I love that. And then the other thing that you said made me think of, I think one of the other gifts in them seeing us work from home, a lot of times, whether it's work from home because it's your own business, or work from home because now you're having to work remotely because you're in quarantine or isolation, you can't go into work, but you still have to work. You have to produce a work product. They get to see that. And again, I'll just speak as a mom, that mommy's world is more than just you, that mommy does have her own interests, and she has people she reports to, and she has things that she likes to do or has to do. And especially, again, and this was great for me as a homeschool mom, because I think, kids, at least mine anyway, can be really self-centered, and it can be all about them.
That's all children.
All
to
children.
an extent,
And it's really good. Even mine, my oldest, I showed you, when we were talking, because we're friends. And so you're talking earlier about, kind of my office, and even my oldest will just kind of stand at the door. Now I'm like, you see my mouth moving, I'm on a podcast interview. Whatever you need is not that important. Can you figure it out or whatever? And like, it's not about you right now. And so I think it's really good that, they know that your world is a little bit bigger than them, and it includes some of these other things. Because I think they just forget that, you've got other things going on in your life, and it's not just about them. So
exactly. But yeah, and it is good training, like, because we don't know how long all of this is going to last, even if you've been given a 2-week, starting point. So I think it's one of those things where holding that boundary is going to help them, and doing it in small increments would, like you're saying, being realistic for the age that they're at, and finding ways, I think being flexible, like, usually we have a rule that they can't be on the iPad until after 6. And, and pretty much, I guess the last 4 days they've been doing so much outside it actually worked, and there's been days where they haven't even gotten on. But I think what I would do is, if I was in a situation where I had something I really had to concentrate for a while, I would be like, okay, it's after lunch.
Right.
Here, I want you go watch a show, go watch a movie, go play your, Minecraft or whatever, so that I know I can get a good hour or probably 2 out of that. So,
absolutely.
And they will not be bugging me, because they won't. If they bring attention, then I'm going to be like, oh, wait a minute, you need to go read a book now. It's book reading time. So I do think it's one of those things of, having flexibility with ourselves when we're like, okay, but these are the rules and I don't want to break them, but this is a very unique period in, people's lives here. And so it's okay. It's not going to be like they'll never go back and they'll expect to have the iPad at 1 p.m. Like, it's just not going to happen. Like,
right. And they'll have that, they'll go back, and it's sort of like muscle memory. They'll go right back. They're so resilient. Whatever that routine was, they really will fall right back into it. So you're right. Giving yourself grace and lightening the schedule a bit and lightening your expectations, they're going to be okay. So yes. And then if there are teens in the house, again, teens react to stress and stressors differently. And so you may find they sleep a little bit more. They're maybe sleeping a little bit later. I would just say, again, you don't have to get up they're not getting up at 6 or whatever early for the bus, because they don't have to. Again, just back to your expectations and kind of saying, it's okay if you sleep in a little bit, it's fine. If you, hop in your pajamas, it's okay. Because I just think a lot of times we just, we do things for a certain way and we expect a certain thing. And we think they're going to always end up, this way, that they're going to be on a corner with a sign that, I was home during COVID-19 and please feed me. No, they're going to be okay. They're not going to, they're going to be okay. So, and then finally, places and spaces. So with this one, think about where in your home do you want them to work? Maybe it's the kitchen table. Maybe it's a family room. If they have a desk in their room and, they're used to doing work in their room. But really, I think it's good to have a designated spot or a few places that they know, like, okay, yeah, this is okay. Or, or even if, however you choose to do it, give it some thought to the places and spaces where they work. I have to remind mine, please don't come in my office. Like, because my office is really nice. I have a wonderful designer, Paula Kinney of Love Your Nest, and she came in and redid it. And they love my space. And I'm like, this is my space. So you're not allowed to come in here. So, and it may mean where you're able to come and where you're not able to come. And I just actually said Paula's name because she is my biz bestie. So, yeah, but yeah, so really letting them know, if you want a designated space, and you can talk to them about it. Some kids, I have one of my four gets migraines, and he prefers, like, he has to start off with a little bit of dark and all that, and he has like blackout curtains in his room, and then he has to transition. So it's, again, depending on their age, asking them, what do you want to do? Where do you prefer to work? And then again, just letting them know what some of the boundaries may be in the home. Like, normally you may come in mommy's office, but you can't come in all the time because mommy may be on a phone call. So, just setting up those boundaries. Sometimes even just having, I'll have like recording in session. Like, that means do not knock on my door because I'm actually recording a podcast episode. But so they have to understand those boundaries with your space as well.
Yeah. And I have the same rule that they're not allowed to be in here unless I'm in here, but even then sometimes not. And so I have the same thing where I put a sign on the door during the times where, like, I'm recording or I'm having a client session. So, that's not a good time for them. And then I lock the door as well so that they can't just bust in.
I like that idea.
Yeah, because it's about setting boundaries, right? Mm-hmm. And I know for like my kids, I know in particular my oldest would, like, she had a friend over for a few days who was staying here with us, and because her mom, worked during the day, and so we were like, oh, she can stay with us, it's no problem. But those two girls would love to have worked up in my daughter's room, but work wasn't going to get done. So they may have had that suggestion, and we were fine with it once the thing that you needed to accomplish was done, right?
Right.
But I agree that we have kind of like a couple of different areas, and luckily, I mean, on the upside, we have like a U-shaped area, so that way there was a little more privacy if one of the kids was playing, doing their work that had the noise coming out of it, and my daughter's class was actually doing Zoom calls, so that was very distracting. So we were like, okay, you need to be in a separate room. So it's one of those things, like, I think you have to, be thoughtful about, okay, like, what is going to be the best, because I don't want to have to run around and make sure that they're staying on task,
right,
and then feel like it's dragging on in the day, because I know many people have been homeschooled, and like, as you were saying, once you focus and get the work done, there's a lot of flexibility in how you can spend your time.
Yeah.
And so, pretty much for them, it's like by 1:00, they go do something outside, and they're doing, my husband took them on a hike today.
Nice.
And unfortunately got back right when I was about to start our interview. So I was like, why are you here? But so doing that. And then, having a little bit of reading time in the afternoon. So having that quiet time, but changing it up for them, because then it helps them focus longer, and it also gives us space to get our work done.
So true. That was good. So, so earlier I talked about, you're being told what to do, maybe quarantine, isolate, schools closed, whatever we're being told to do, but we're not told how to do it. You may not know exactly how to do it. And so, again, like Amber was saying, like you were saying, there's a range. Some students are sent home with resources, whether it's a tablet and you're told to log in, whether it's a packet of material for 1 week, 8 weeks, I've seen all over, to absolutely nothing. I talked to one of my students, and she's a sophomore, and she has nothing. And I said, okay, no problem. You're going to study for your AP exams, and this is how you're going to do it. So, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I just wanted to share just kind of if you have nothing to do and you don't know what to do, or you need to fill in some things, I just wanted to share what I call the core 5. And these are kind of the 5 areas and some resources to help you think of things for your students to do. So there are just 5 core subjects. And I didn't share earlier, but I'm actually a college admissions consultant in my business. And so, you know, of course, when they're building their high school transcript, they want to have at least the 5, and then there are a few electives. But even the younger kids, and this is what I make sure even my 9-year-old is doing, that she's focusing on the 5 core areas throughout the week. And so, and she loves language arts, so she could do language arts like all day. She loves creative writing. She likes making stories. She likes, she'll make little poems. She could do that. Now, math, she's not super crazy about, but it's really important to make sure that they're getting these. And you may find that your school just sent home maybe math and language art packets. And so you may think, okay, let's focus on some history. Let's focus on some foreign language. Let's focus on some science. So, some other subjects. So I just wanted to share that. So language arts, math, history, science, and foreign language are just your basic 5 core courses that students most likely are getting in every school, especially in the high school years, because I work with high school students. So most likely, definitely in the high school years, they're getting that. And I would say, depending on the age of the listener and the viewer, if you're in high school, definitely maintain that. Even on your own, because you're going to need to carry that if you're college bound. So for, college bound families with college bound kids, continue to work on those things. And I'm going to share some resources where you can do that. And if your school didn't give you anything, you can maybe explore some areas of interest to you. If you love, I don't know, World War II, you may dive into some videos and some resources that I share in history, because you normally have to spend so much time doing other things. So you've got time to pursue some of these other things. So again, language arts, math, history, science, and a foreign language.
I was like, does watching Outlander count as history? I try to find the easy way.
Yeah, there you go. So now that we understand the 5 subjects, I want to talk about how to deliver it. And again, you can mix it up. So there's always printed material, good old fashioned paper worksheets, for the little ones, if they're doing cursive, or, nothing beats paper and pencil, doing math problems on paper. I like to do, when I know I'm working on tasks that I can be interrupted, I tend to give my younger one printed stuff. And I love that you said that. When I need, I don't need her to disturb me or interrupt what I'm doing. I shouldn't say disturb. When I don't need any interruptions, that's when I move to the online stuff, either online games or online learning. And that's one way to really help minimize the time that they're doing online stuff. And again, I'm talking more for, of course, in your case, you have to check in and do that. But if you've got some flexibility and you're just trying to figure this all out and you're like, okay, so what am I going to do? So printed, video. I love videos. Videos are great. There are so many subjects, short videos, a little bit longer, all kinds of subjects. And again, I'll share some resources in a moment, but that medium is such a great way to learn. And then there are online games, and games are a great way to reinforce learning. And sometimes they're refreshing concepts or learning something new. And because it's in a game format, they don't even know they're learning. If they have to add the numbers up and catch the fish with the right number on its belly, and they're like tapping it or whatever, they're like playing and learning and doing it and not even realizing like, oh, okay, I just did my 5 times tables and I didn't even realize it, or whatever it was. So online, all kinds of online games, online learning. That's when it's like the teaching, and then maybe it's asking some questions, and there are different degrees of the online learning. And I'll share some of that for all ages. Elementary, middle, and high school student. And then good old fashioned board games. We love board games. We're a big board game family. Yeah. So if you've got board games, don't overlook pulling them out. If you've got some time, and again, this goes back to knowing your family dynamics, but if your kids can sit for you to get something done and play a board game, pull out that board game. I know sometimes you may get them as a present and you forget about them, put them on the shelf, but this is a great time to simply pull them out and to use them. So again, printed, video, online games, online learning, and board games.
Yeah, we just played Monopoly last night, but that
Did
was,
you?
yeah, my son was begging all day and I literally was like, well, are you sure you don't want to play something else? Because it's such a long game.
Uh,
And he got so upset. I'm like, I didn't say we couldn't play it. I just wanted to know if there's possibly anything else. And
right.
so, we were exhausted, but we were like, okay, we're going to do this. And we ended up having so much fun. And we're already a family who loves games anyway.
Right.
But it's true because there was a lot of, Monopoly. It was, there's math and there's strategy and there's just a lot of,
Mm-hmm.
stuff that gets reinforced. So it's still educational, but we had a blast
Yes. Yeah.
and it was good, and so I do think mixing it up.
Yes. Definitely mix it up. And they need the mix up too. They need you to
Yes.
mix it up. So
Yes.
definitely if you're thinking, okay, if you have to plan it because there's nothing that came home or, and you say, okay, I can at least get through math, language arts and science. And I'm going to throw in, some worksheets for language arts and a video for this and just mix it all up. So they're not just sitting on their tablets all the time, or they're not just going through a textbook or whatever. So yeah. Definitely mix it up. So let me, hopefully I can blow this up. I don't know how tiny that is, but
switch it. Maybe it'll get bigger.
Okay.
A little bit bigger.
Okay. So I have a worksheet and you can go to that link to download this worksheet. And again, I wonder if I do that, I don't know, I can't even blow my own thing up. Okay. But again, I want you to write down your goals and really what do you want to remember about this time together? So these are times that you have together. For me, like I said, my oldest daughter, because I have 2 girls, 2 boys. So my oldest girl just turned 18. And I just remember thinking, I knew what I wanted her to remember about her 18th together. And I was very intentional. I started planning and thinking about it when she was 16. And so, it was just that time together that I wanted us to have on her 18th birthday weekend. And so during this time together, what is it that you want as a mom? Maybe you want to share family recipes. Maybe you're so busy running that you don't really sit and cook because it's like quick. And so now you're like, you know what, I can end my day a little bit early around 4 and start dinner. And then, like you said, get back to, do something later on. But whatever it is, think about what it is that you want to remember. And then what do you want them to remember about this time together? Mommy sat down with us and played a board game. You'd be surprised at what they remember. Some of the things that come out of my older kids' mouths, I'm like, you remember that? And half of it, I don't even remember. But they remember things. I'm like, yeah, Mom, that was so fun. I'm like, oh, okay. They remember. I will never forget. They told me, I do remember this, but I love Sherlock Holmes and I love chocolate chip cookies. So I would sit and I mean, up until honestly, till my oldest was probably 15 or 16, but just sit and just read different Sherlock Holmes stories and eat chocolate chip cookies. And I would just read out loud and we were just all together, and we would just eat the cookies and read. And I thought, I might need to go back to reading out loud. I said, well, I'll save for my grandkids. I don't know. But yeah,
I love that.
Yeah. But I kind of remembered that. I kind of forgot, but they remembered that. And I thought, oh, okay. So you never know what they will remember about these moments being at home, especially for an extended period of time. They may remember nothing or they may remember something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
I just wanted to reiterate for anybody who's watching that if they go to this link that we are sharing, and we'll definitely share it again in the replays, but that they can download this worksheet that you're talking about here.
Correct. For sure. Yep. For sure. Because I want you to have it and you can click on all the links. It makes it super simple.
Yeah. Because I think that you took the time to put together all these great resources for people. And I know we only have a few minutes left.
Yes.
But I definitely want people to not worry that you probably can't see it very well.
Okay, perfect. That is a quick lay of the land. So when it comes to resources, I broke it out by each of the core 5. So it's, free language arts resources, math, science, history, foreign language, and then of course, art. Because, we're going to have all these toilet paper rolls. We need to make some art projects, right? Somebody's getting some Christmas presents, birthday presents. We're going to figure something out to do with all these extra toilet paper rolls that we're going to have from all the toilet paper that we bought and have used. So I just thought of a few art projects, found some links on there. And there's some really cool crafts, like you can make stamps and you can make like these animals. I thought, wow, this looks like fun. So yeah, why not give them art as well? So the art projects. And then I have some high school resources and then some multi-subject resources. So these are great links for multi-ages and then different subjects. So it may have a little bit of math or history or whatever. So all that's in there as well. And I tried to break it out into web-based, some printable stuff for sure. Just a few of my favorite places where I just go and I print worksheets. It's so simple. And I love free worksheets. You just print them out and keep going. And then some YouTube videos. And then I end with Schoolhouse Rock because I grew up on Schoolhouse Rock. I think everybody should watch Schoolhouse Rock. I absolutely love Schoolhouse Rock videos. And, kids ought to know I'm just a Bill and everything else. So,
and they're good because they work, right?
Yes, you're right. You're right. So,
yes, we have Lee joining us, who said she also loves Schoolhouse Rock.
Yes. So, just a few daily must-haves. So, I talked about your schedule, your kids' schedule, some resources, the core 5, how to mix it up. But these are some things I think just help kind of bring order to every day. And I try to do this. Especially when my kids were little, I would just break in the day. And again, when I owned a fitness studio, because I had to teach class at 5 or open up because I had a couple fitness instructors. So around 2, we were doing these things and I was getting dinner started before I had to run out and work from 4 to 8 at night out of the house. But a cleanup time. And, you can call it home ec, you can call it whatever you want. You can make them managers. I don't care. But this is kind of the time where you just reset whatever kind of gets out of order, because as a homeschool mom, I can tell you for sure, when you have everybody in your house is going to be messier. It's just the reality because you got more people in it more often. And everybody always says, I know one day I'm going to miss all this mess, but right now I really don't. So having, a designated time where whether it's in the morning, clear the breakfast dishes. I kind of have my own rules because I want it clean so that when I'm ready to start dinner or whoever's doing dinner, it just makes it easier. So think about your chores and have a daily, just pick up, not necessarily like a deep clean, but, let's just kind of pick up and reset for the night so that, again, as we're planning and thinking through our next day, it's all set. Lunchtime. Now, this may sound like, of course, we're going to feed them. They have lunch in school. So there's a couple things with lunchtime. Number one, it's not going to be as long as school, of course, because they're not in school and, a whole lot of folks don't have to be fed. So it's going to be shorter. But the other thing I realize about lunch, I can work through a lunch, but my kids can't. So I have learned that when they're younger, now they're older and it's easier. But when they're younger, when I was working, I was like, oh, you didn't eat lunch. Sorry. So whatever visual, audio, whatever reminder you need, if you're, depends. But, I would go ahead and schedule lunch. Maybe have some things that are easy, whether you're doing that prep the night before, whatever it is, if you've got frozen pizzas on hand, think about lunch because they get hungry. And nothing can cause chaos than like hungry kids.
Oh my gosh.
And hungry young adults. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to interrupt because Lee was saying the link doesn't seem to be working, and we will check on that. I'm just going to say for anybody who's on, it was working earlier because I actually downloaded it. I did it. But it is not working, but we'll check on that right after the live happens. But yeah, I agree. Like I know for me, I can either be an uber planner or a completely fly by the seat of my pants kind of person. Yes. And I will say the last year, it's been more of a fly by the seat of my pants. And so, when all of this started coming down, for me, having more of being more prepared was like the one thing I could control.
Yes.
Everything else is in chaos or just, I have no control over what's going to happen the next day. So I created, a food schedule, a menu plan until the end of the month. Smart. And so every day there is a plan. My husband keeps forgetting that I did it. So, but most of it, it's like I'm cooking it anyway, which I realized was the downside. I was like, I picked meals that I cook. And so, except for like 1 or 2 that he does. So I was like, well, I'm putting a lot more on my plate. That was not a good idea. Right. But a lot of them were like crock pot meals or freezer meals, or we knew we would have extra. And I think having those kinds of things, or I know for a lot of people, like they have like a bin of snacks, both in the fridge and then one outside of the fridge that kids can go and have at any time. Yes. Or, then we bought the snacks that they have to ask for, but I bought them like when before, like right before everything kind of hit the fan,
Right.
I stocked up big time because I was like, I'm going to need bribery. Like I'm going to
Yes.
need things that are going to buy me some peace. And I will tell you, they're kind of blowing through those, so I have to
Oh,
hide them.
you're right. It's the worst. And I'm like, we don't know how long, you gotta come on, this is the rations. You gotta ration it out. Like you're right.
Yeah, and Lee was making a good point, one of the people on the comments, and that kids love structure, and they really
Yeah.
do. Even if they don't think they do, it
Mhm.
gives them something to expect and to prepare for. And it's like they say, if they know, like, okay, if I just spend 30 more minutes doing this particular activity, then I get, time to play outside, or
Yes.
whatever the thing is. It gives them something to look forward to. And it's good for us too.
Yes.
Even though sometimes I resist it, I know ultimately when I'm doing it, I feel calmer.
Yes.
I feel so much calmer.
So true. That's so true. That was good. I like what you said with the snack band as well as the other and the meals too. Because also, like you said, I love how you said you plan the meals out because you can also have it, and keep it easy. Tacos on Tuesday and whatever, just the
Hey, every
same.
Tuesday said tacos.
Right, exactly.
You're
Keep it
like,
super simple.
know?
Yes. Make it easy. Whatever makes your life easy this time period, make it easy. And having at least some kind of plan or something in place makes it easy. That's good. And then the final daily must have would be quiet time. I'll tell my 9-year-old, like, okay, SSR, sustained silent reading. My sister is a teacher. She just retired. She's a retired teacher now. And I remember she would talk about SSR. I was like, oh, I like that. I was like, I'm going to have SSR. And the minute I say it, and it works well for me because she loves to read. My youngest loves to read, but I'm like, I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear you. Just get a book. I don't care what you do. I don't care. You just look at shh, 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 bye, because she talks a lot, and so so I just have to remind her it's like sustained silent reading, and so just that quiet is just so powerful because it just calms everybody before whatever the night's going to look like. Because again, we're with each other a little bit longer, and I can feel it even though I'm homeschooling my kids. And so my kids are used to being home. There's just something about this quarantine that, being told you can't go to the mall, being told you can't go to the movies, all this, you can't do all this. Everybody, it's like that little slight edge. So just that quiet just settles everyone.
It does. And
Into the night.
that is the thing. It is different. It is
Yes.
different than even if you're used to having everyone home, because like for us, our routine was after dropping the kids off at school was going to the gym every day. And so now we
Yes.
can't go to the gym. And that obviously is a big stress reliever. And it's an opportunity, just to, get all of that cortisol out of your system. And that's
Yes.
not happening.
It's
I mean,
not
we can still work out. It just has to look different.
Yeah.
But I did notice, again, like last night, after we put the kids down, we didn't even turn on the TV or anything. And my husband was doing something and I was doing something on the phone, but it was completely silent.
Yeah.
And I think we probably need that more than we're getting it normally. But something about all of this other stuff going on, having that actual silent time was so nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially when all that's in the news is COVID-19, coronavirus,
Exactly.
You just have to
We
silence.
all need a timeout, not just our children. Like
Yeah.
we need a timeout as well.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yeah, highly recommend that. Highly recommend the silent time.
Yes. So I just have one final thing and then we'll be able to wrap it up because I want to respect your time. But, there may be opportunities if you're, working from home because you own your own business, or if you're working from home because, you work for someone else. But especially if you own your own business, take this opportunity to show them your business, depending on their age, that maybe they can do mailers and put the stamps on the envelopes, or organize some stuff for you, or help manage your schedule. These are opportunities that you have that you're not going to have once they return back to school. And so I think my kids honestly are the way they are because I've always helped. They've been free labor. I've violated every labor law. No shame. And so I think it's why they are the way they are, because they have every business. I have been literally, I've done a lot of businesses, and they were always there at doing something in the business. And so I think it's important that, again, we don't lose sight of, maybe if it's just talking to them about what I do or showing them something or some piece, definitely show them your business.
Yes, I like that. I think it's good. I
Yeah.
think, you know, and I think, I guess one last point, this is the therapist in me who thinks about all those people who are just struggling to hold on.
Yeah.
This is great if you're in that place, and especially if you're not feeling a lot of pressure from work. But I'm thinking about the people who either are feeling a lot of pressure or stress,
Mhm.
or you know, maybe like have ADHD like I do.
Right.
I think it's also okay. I think it's better off to set the stronger boundaries
Mhm.
than to like pressure yourself to be always engaging and let everything be a learning moment.
Right.
Because then you're just going to yell at them and you're going to get
Right.
upset, right? And that's the thing. It's like I would be better off like locking my door for longer and getting my work done so that when I'm done, I can
Yeah.
go out and be present and be more playful with them than trying to integrate that into my work and then
Mhm.
feeling so frustrated because I can't think. And
Yes.
so I just wanted to put that piece out there because I think it's all such great advice. But
Yeah.
I'm thinking about for you people out there that need to hear it's okay not to feel like this whole integration thing of like simultaneously doing your work while they're, you know, there and participating. It's because sometimes that doesn't work
Right.
and it's very stressful. And so you know, I think thank you so much, Pam,
Oh,
for coming
thank
on
you,
because
Amber, for having me. It was an honor.
yeah, and I love that you gave so many like helpful thoughts and even like real world scenarios about it. This isn't about being perfect or like that everything's going to look like, you know, so easy and like seamless.
Right.
Like you're being really real, and I think
Right.
people appreciate that. And just
Right.
putting it out there that like we
I'm
all
going
have
to be real again. See, my daughter's right there. She
that is hilarious.
this is my life.
Oh, I think it's like perfect though, because
And all
as
she
we're
came
talking
in to
about
grab
how do
was a
you work.
marker.
Well,
Okay.
how do you work when you're with your
Yeah.
kids at home?
Right.
This is perfect because earlier when we were prepping, you and I, my daughter just knocked at the door to let me know that her
Right.
friend forgot her deodorant. I'm like, why does that need to happen right now? Thank you, Lee, for joining us and participating.
Yeah.
I really appreciate your participation, and I hope you found something helpful. We'd love to know.
Yes.
But yeah, I think it's very meta that our kids are interrupting stuff
Just
while
a
we're working.
marker. I'm
I was
like,
like, this is perfect.
right.
We have to laugh because,
Right.
you know, you're
This
better
is
off
real.
doing that than like screaming at them. So,
Exactly. Thanks, Amber.
so yeah, head on over to thescholarshipshark.com/live so you can download Pam's amazing list of resources. And I like the questions about giving yourself perspective about, you know, at the end of the day, what are you hoping to get out of this experience, even
Yeah.
if you didn't choose it?
Yeah, for sure. All right,
Thank
bye.
you
Bye.
so much.